Thanks so much, everyone, for attending today's webinar with Oasis Solutions and AvidXchange. We're really grateful that you've taken the next 30 minutes or so out of your busy day today to learn more about 3 tips that we have to share to improve your workday. I'm going to quickly run through a couple of housekeeping notes here for us. So we really appreciate the opportunity to take questions, and we want to answer all the questions that you're going to have today. And we're going to use the GoToWebinar widget here to collect all the questions and answer those at the end of the webinar. We'll make sure to make time to answer them accordingly. We will also be recording our webinars and sending out the recording link to all the registrants this week, as well as putting them on the Oasis Solutions YouTube channel. Now on to introduce our speakers today. My name is Aaron Rosenberg, and I am a partner here at Oasis Solutions and our Senior Vice President of Business Development. And I'm going to start this webinar by providing a little more context about Oasis Solutions and what we do and how we do it. And then I'm going to pass the baton off to Michael Johnson. Michael is the Sales Manager for Strategic Channels at AvidXchange, and he's going to run through the bulk of today's webinar around tips to improve your workday. So a little bit more about Oasis Solutions. We were founded in 1991, and so we have 27 plus years experience in the marketplace today, helping companies select, implement, and then support their core business management software. We are headquartered here in Louisville, Kentucky. We have offices in Lexington and Nashville, as well as clients all around the US. We actually have over 700 clients in 35 different states. How we differentiate ourselves from our competitors and how we help our clients is we take great care in helping customers transform their business by helping them select the right software and implement the solutions that best enable their people and processes to become more productive. We do feel like who you buy from is as important or even more important than what you buy in today's marketplace. So having a good partner in place to guide you through the purchase, selection of software, and then the implementation project is of utmost importance to get a successful ROI on the purchase of new applications. We staff our teams with some really bright folks, CPAs, former controllers, software developers, and others that make up our team to help our clients realize, again, the benefits of their software purchases. And over the course of our collective experience, we have over 250 years of combined consulting experience on staff. And so today we're going to talk about a couple of three different tips to help you improve your everyday workday. And to lead us through that is going to be Michael Johnson from AvidXchange. And Michael, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Aaron. I do appreciate it. So always a pleasure to connect with clients of Oasis. So appreciate you taking time out of your day here in July. I hope you're enjoying the day and weather. So in thinking about this, we're always kind of reminded by clients that we're speaking about that AP automation seems to be a pretty hot topic these days. Why? Because without a doubt, it's 2018, and more often than not, we find that people are leveraging technology, and we're maybe specifically talking about the phone. So if you're a parent of a millennial, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So there are a lot of challenges around the AP process today in 2018. I ran a business in the 90s, and without a doubt, it was paper, from invoices to paper checks. Flash forward to 2018, we still find that that's the predominant landscape for folks. How they're processing their AP today is around paper. So let's talk about 3 tips that we came up. There are certainly hundreds of tips and ways to improve your workday around leveraging technology to automate your accounts payable process, but we've allotted about a half hour of time for a conversation. We may get there a lot sooner, so we'll give you back some time at the end of your day. But number one is really get organized. And we think in terms of organized, here's a theme that I hear from folks often when we're talking about is implement internal controls. It's really about controls and visibility, and that's what folks have told me countless times is that they don't have within their AP process because it's in paper, it's in a folder, it's a paper check, it's on somebody's desk, it's in a filing cabinet. So they're looking at internal controls, and they want to be able to communicate to all their stakeholders. And that's stakeholders we're talking about specifically their employees and their vendors. So what do we mean by that when we're talking about internal controls? How do we, some of the things that we hear is how do we standardize invoice entry? And that means how do we standardize how we receive these invoices and how do we get them into our accounting system? In today's world, vendors are predominantly providing invoices to you, we find, in two methodologies. One is via paper, via mail, the good old USPS system, the postal service, and two is via email. It's kind of ironic when you think about it, isn't it, that vendors still mail invoices when they could simply email them to you. But I do find a lot of companies today have set up an AP inbox or have somebody that's receiving those. They've worked hard to try to get their vendors to send them via email, but without a doubt, we're all creatures of habit, and just as we are, so are our vendors. So they'll want to mail those. We want to talk about standardizing that process and being able to promote to your vendors, hey, if you're going to mail those or email those, let's get those in as quickly as possible. So we want to be able to get those within, into a system where we can automate the workflows. So where things are entered, they can be coded and routed for approval, and get that turn time down from several weeks, which is pretty typical in a standard AP process if you're using paper, down to a few hours. Within 24 to 48 hours of receipt, it's back into your accounting system for financial processing, perhaps payment. And then we want to standardize the process for, compliance or controls about cleaning up vendor files. Get into the process of validating the vendor's TIN number, requested W-9s from each vendor, OFAC checking. We live in a global community today, and we're all concerned about security, make sure that we're dealing with vendors that are clear and clean. So we want to do that OFAC checking and then archive those inactive vendors. So looking at, controls as our process to get out from underneath the paper, be able to focus on things that'll help us clean up our process. And it's hard to do when you're dealing with all the exceptions, because in my experience in working with vendors, we're talking about, dealing with paper. So how do we help, don't procrastinate. Start these projects today about improving your controls. So summer is typically a good time. I've heard from many companies, I've been on back-to-back demonstrations of our technologies with two clients, potential clients this morning, that are saying, hey, summer, it's a little bit slower. People are on vacation, yes, but we're not dealing with year-end processing or the financial crunch we have in Q4. So maybe today is a better time. So, don't procrastinate, when you're looking at this process, get that invoice in as soon as possible, get it into your coding system, into your accounting system, code it right away, route it for approval. Do this every day. So don't be a procrastinator. Get things done and quickly. And technology can really help you with that, because it gives you a visibility into it early on in the process when it's not on somebody's desk or in somebody's file in a folder in the filing cabinet. So number 2 tip is prioritize. Look at your responsibilities in the AP role and try to leverage those. So prioritize your duties. Look at things that you do daily. What are things that you come into every day of opening mail, coding invoices, whether it's physical or a stamp, and do you scan those or enter those invoices into your accounting system? That's more physical work. These are things you do daily. Send invoices out for approval. Two companies met with today are using FedEx to get things out to the different locations. One has 20, another has 40. They're incurring costs for overnighting those things out to people. Follow up on the approvals on a daily basis. Set up new vendors. Request required information. The W-9. Get those people logged up in your system on a monthly basis. Looking at prioritizing your duties on analyzing new vendors set up last month. Do month-end only, accrue invoices, do reconciliation. These are tasks that take up a lot of time. Thursdays, I do find that people usually use Thursday at the end of the month to process or facilitate payments to the vendors. Looking at getting everything in by Thursday to get the approvals done, get that in your accounting system, create those payment files within your accounting system, process those checks, cut those checks, mail them out on Friday to the vendors, and kind of clap your hands and go, good, we got a job done. Then it starts all over again on Monday. So, and then some of the duties is looking at reviewing your quarterly and yearly financials, and then update your policies and practices. Always look to improve upon that process. And if you're on the top of your game, you have no more missing invoices, no more duplicate payments, fewer invoices to accrue. easily reconcile your accounts and journal entries, maybe take a vacation or sick day without being behind, help in other areas of the accounting and finance process. So these are some things that, leveraging technology can free up a lot of your time. People that are automating their AP process today, we're seeing about a 60% improvement of freeing up of their time because it's no longer in paper, it's no longer in folders, it's in a system of record where people can access it 24/7. So, one of the things that we try to encourage people to today is really stop cutting paper checks. When you think in terms of your exposure to potential fraud, payment technology is rapidly changing. The irony of that is that maybe over a decade ago, when I was working with businesses back 10 years, they were thinking that paper checks were going to go away completely. But if we look at the most recent studies and statistics on payment processing, without a doubt, it's still there. About, here in the U.S., about 50% of all payments are still done via a paper check. But we're seeing a lot of movement, a lot of interest in companies that are talking to us about, hey, how do we get away from that? Why do they want to get away from it? Because it's costly, for one. We've got paper checks, we've got envelopes, we've got stamp, we've got labor. So what are they looking at? They're looking at perhaps leveraging electronic payment methodologies. And there are a lot of things out there. A lot of companies have kicked around or explored or have implemented ACH with their vendors, setting up with their bank to utilizing the ACH network to get payments from them to their vendors. Some clients that we work with are leveraging credit card payments or wire transfer. Typically, those are for overseas vendors or things that we have to expedite payments to. And some are looking to use, third-party payment solutions to manage electronic payments to vendors. So there's lots of things that are going on in the payment world. So the ultimate goal that we're hearing more often from when we talk to clients is how do we get away from paper checks? And because the paper checks ultimately lead to the potential exposure to fraud. I say potential. Just Google fraud today. It's amazing what you can see out there, what people get creative through AP and taking other people's money, their employers' money. There's some creative stories out there where folks are, figuring out how to get money into their bank account and not to their vendor's account. So automating and stopping to the cutting of paper checks will reduce your exposure to fraud. And number three, as far as the tips today that we'd like to pass on, is eliminate and automate. And that's really eliminate the paper, the manual tasks, and ultimately save time in your AP process. So eliminating paper in those manual tasks that are associated with AP today will save you time. As I mentioned, we've done some benchmarks, and we're seeing about a savings of about 60% of a person's time that's typically associated with AP is now freed up when they automate. Get out of those filing cabinets. I joke a lot with the companies I talk to we're keeping staples in business by constantly having to order new filing cabinets where we're storing all this vendor information in the vendor folder inside of a filing cabinet. Today in a demo, and we have a lot of reporting capability inside of our AP automation solution where you can simply query the system and generate a PDF report that not only includes the image of the invoice, but actually the history, the historical data around when did it come in, who touched it, how was it coded, what comments, any attachments that are associated with that. All that reporting can be generated in a matter of minutes versus hours where you're going to task somebody to go into a filing cabinet and try to find it. So never have to search through filing cabinets again. That's a huge time saver. And somebody laughing today when I talked about the millennials entering the workforce, kids coming out of college today that are going through accounting and finance or, taking jobs as AP people and going, you want me to do what? You want me to staple this, put it in a file folder and in a filing cabinet? Let me show you what I can do on my phone. So there's a huge groundswell and movement within the labor force to leverage technology to automate because people don't want to go to filing cabinets anymore and have to go to that off-site storage. Who on the phone hasn't heard of Iron Mountain? So people are looking to eliminate those filing cabinets, increase the visibility into all the invoices and payments. Imagine if you could simply log into a system and see what the status is of an invoice, who has it, what they've done with it, and also where your payments are. In a payment process today, to look at the convenience of mobile technology, being able to log in and know a payment went out to a vendor, you approve that payment, you can see the invoice that's associated with it, any comments, what the status is, where it is in that process. And that mobile phone technology has permeated our consumer world. It is finally translating to the workforce. A lot of folks, me in particular, are a little bit older in age, are flabbergasted with all the capabilities people have on their phones today. So why not leverage mobile technology? Get key executives out of the office where they don't have to come back, where they can be out in the organization, out in the company, traveling to different locations, and be able to see invoices, approve them, code them, process them, and also verify and approve payments. So, and then the huge advantage of automating this process is your disaster recovery plan. Anybody seen what water does to paper? It's not pretty. So when you think in terms of, we have clients on the East Coast that are exposed to hurricanes that were wiped out when Katrina hit. And if you've got this stuff stored in the cloud, it's easy to recover from that. Solutions like us have backup recovery plans. We have data centers, redundancy, security. All that information that was typically archived or stored in filing cabinets is no longer in the basement or in the attic, but it's in the cloud where people have access to it. So in the case of a disaster, easy to recover from that. So when you think in terms of some of the tips, integrate all your AP solutions with your accounting system. That's a key, kind of theme around what we do here at AvidXchange. Your accounting system, in our mind, is your system of record. We just simply help facilitate the capture invoice, promoting to the workflow, the visibility and control of that, and then pass that into your accounting system. Whether it's NetSuite or Sage or some of the other accounting systems out there, your system should remain that system of record. We are not it. We don't pretend to be it. We just want to help that and complement your accounting system by getting that data inside your financial application, which is your ERP, allow you to run your business. And so execute all payments from your accounting system. About 10 years ago, we here at Avid were asked by our clients to eliminate paper checks. They were happy with that we got rid of the paper invoices. How about these paper checks? So what they were adamant about is that they wanted that accounting system, that system of record, be able to be their generator of payment data. So execute all those payments from your accounting system as you do today. Mirror that process, but give you that flexibility to leverage a payment technology that's current and relevant today by getting you out of paper checks, but provides that ability for your vendors to receive payments the way they want to. We here at AvidXchange facilitate payments in 3 processes to your vendors, and that includes a paper check. And because even though 50% of B2B payments are paper check today, I don't see that going away completely. There are still vendors that are going to require that. So we accommodate the vendors that really need that process, but we also offer electronic payments to them. And then your data should sync with your third-party solution to your accounting system. So everything should work together. There should be harmony. There should be connectivity between your ERP, your invoice automation solution, and your payment automation solution. And the way we built that here in AvidXchange, it follows that logic process of invoice capture, promotion to workflow, coding, approval, back into the accounting system with the integration. Then within the accounting system, you create your payment file, and then you send that to your third-party solution for payment automation, which is AvidXchange. And all those things kind of work in harmony and exist together. So, those are some of the things that we talk about, and encourage people as far as tips is if you're looking at integrating or automating your AP process, it should work with your accounting system and should support it through an integration, a robust integration. So let's take a look at some of the, processes that we, typically talk about when we get into conversations with folks who are saying, hey, I'm interested in this accounts payable automation solution, and I want to understand more about it. So I think one of the follow-up activities that we'll kind of survey you at the end of our conversation today is about looking at, what are next steps? A lot of times we're talking about automating the process. It's a journey. It's not a sprint. So you're collecting information around your case to build automation. Why should your company automate that process? And these types of webinars, the content we'll supply, the presentation, the recording, all go to the building that kind of repository about why we should automate. Because I have to tell you from experience doing this, unless you can point to a reason why, you're more likely not to automate. So there's got to be something going on in your business. And it usually starts with a review of your current process. So, and what you see here on this screen, let me just get to it, is really the manual process. We talked in terms of how people do what they do today. How do invoices come into your organization? More often, companies tell me that we get them via mail or email. Who's opening the mail, downloading the email? Do you work with a purchase order? How does that purchase order created? How do you route out? How do you get people to approve invoices? That it take the form of a stamp, an email, a note on the invoice? Who does the coding? How does that get into the system? How's the approval noted? Does it really, as I mentioned, is it a stamp or some kind of note? I can show you examples of invoices where there's so many notes on it, it's kind of crazy for the auditors. And then how does it get into your accounting system? Who's doing the data entry? Once it's in there, how do you pay your vendors? Are you using checks like most companies? What other payment processes are you using? Do you have ACH? Do you use wires? How's that invoice at the end of this process of approval and payment stored? Do you have a doc management system, or are you using filing cabinets? So if you get an audit or a request from a vendor or from the boss to do some research, are you back to filing cabinets? All these things that you see on the screen today are really life before automation, equate to time, energy, and people that are involved with it. So once people make the decision to automate their process, everything you see here that's covered with our lovely X logo, AvidXchange, and grayed out is removed and replaced by software and service. We're a SaaS model, so we're in the cloud. So you're not buying software, you're not worrying about seat licenses or users. We simply, as I mentioned, complement your ERP system and integrate with it, but we eliminate all these steps, which are time and energy. No more need to receive the invoices. We receive those on behalf of our clients from their vendors. We notify vendors 2 weeks before you go live. We've automated our process. So if you're going to mail them, here's our PO box. We'll go to the post office twice a day, receive those and scan those. If you're going to email them, here's our email address. So send it. We usually get about 80% adoption from vendors in month 1, and then the remaining fall in month 2 and 3. They've become very comfortable and familiar with these automation solutions. So no more need to open the mail, no more downloading of emails. Work with the PO that you have, whether it's in your accounting system or third-party system. Connect that with the invoice. No more need to route mail out or send emails. It's all done on an automated process. You can build workflows based on people's role or rule within the system, when they should receive it, how they receive it. With the push of a button, you're moving on to the next step for approval. Coding can be automated, and we've all got those invoices. We call them reoccurring. So if you code them once in your Avid portal, they'll come back coded for you. And then the approval process is a simple click of a button. In that process of clicking the button builds that audit trail. Everything is date and time stamped. And so then when it comes back to AP for their final review, they make sure everybody's signed off or hit the approval button. Everything's attached. It's been coded. The simple pushing of a button passes that information into your accounting system. And so you're eliminating the data entry, more time given back to the organization. Once it's in your accounting system, you would say, hey, let's pay some vendors. So instead of processing payments on premise, creating checks and signing those and mailing those, you can send those to your Avid Pay portal, where we'll work with your vendors to facilitate payments the way they want to be paid. And that includes a paper check option along with 2 electronics. And because it began electronically, it's stored electronically, so you have access. Research is a mobile phenomenon. You have 24/7 access to key critical AP data. We're seeing a huge groundswell and interest in payment technology. So, we created a large Avid Pay network. We have over 450,000 vendors that are in our network. And so we take traditional payments and work with vendors on how to pay, whether they, the network is really leveraged there to help automate this process. As I mentioned earlier, most companies use checks for simplicity. Avid works with your vendors to determine the payment that works for them. You simply upload a payment file, and AvidXchange uses the most current and information to work with your vendors to execute those payments. We provide 100% fraud protection for you as a client. We work and track all payments to deposit. You capture the data from your accounting system. You create that payment file as you do today, like a check file. It has the check number, the bank accounts. We're not a bank. We're not looking to change that. You maintain your existing bank relationship, but you save time and money. And then on the flip side of this, the Avid Pay network for electronic payments that vendors opt into results in a rebate back to your company. So for simply sending your payment file to your Avid Pay network, we work with those vendors, determine what payment process they want to opt into. If they opt into electronic payments, you get a monthly rebate, monthly money coming back for you. So you're eliminating the cost for printing the check while receiving a healthy rebate for your company, and improving controls. We take over positive pay. We cover fraud protection, your guaranteed fraud protection in our payment network. So let's look at how do we increase payment adoption? A client sends their payment file to AvidXchange. AvidXchange determines what the suppliers are already in the network. With that 450,000 vendors, we surprise clients every day. They say their vendors are not in the network. Well, we already know they are because we're signing up vendors every day because the vendors are like all of us. They want convenience. They want money in their bank. They want services. We supply those services back to the vendors so that they know that they're getting their money overnighted in their bank account. We supply the remittance detail report. We've actually created a free vendor portal. It's called Cash Flow Manager, where vendors can sign up for free, log in, check statuses of their receivables with you, how many invoices they have out. They can download remittance reporting. They can request early pay. We call that Pay Accelerator. So we have lots of services available. So we look at the vendors that are in network, and then those vendors that are not in the network, we do an outreach, and this is an education call, we call it. We have great vendor adoption because we don't do it via email or mail. We do it via a personal phone call to your vendor saying, hey, last time we sent you a paper check. There are other options that are available to you. We'd like to make you aware of those. And, if they enroll with that, that means money back to you in the form of a rebate. All this is integrated with your accounting system, so we're helping change the game. We're helping revolutionize the way vendors receive payments with this approach. And we're doing it at such a large rate that we're getting about 40% adoption of vendors towards electronic payments. Well, that's some of the tips that we wanted to pass on this summer day. We do appreciate your time. I want to bring on some of our folks here to run a quick audience poll, and we'll wrap this up for you.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike. So as Mike stated, I'm going to launch a quick poll. For the poll, it's really just to allow us to know the best way to follow up with you. So I will keep that up for the time being. And while everyone takes time to answer that, we will start to run through Q&A. So as a reminder, if you have any questions, just put them into the questions box in your control panel, and we will answer as many as we can. So we have a few minutes left, so we'll take 2 questions. Mike, one of the questions that came through was, what is the biggest difference between what AvidXchange offers versus document management?
Sure, great question. We get this fairly often because people try to commingle or mingle the two. Doc management as a solution, when I think in terms of what the value it brings, is it's going to allow you to build a repository, a library of all the things, all the documents that you currently hold in paper within your organization. They could be HR, manuals, tech documents, videos, things of that nature. We're highly focused AP automation on accounts payable. Unlike doc management, which are, it has a fairly simplified workflow. AP departments and AP processes are very complex and robust in their workflow requirements. So we're really focused on that accounts payable market, that finance end of the business, where document management, and I've seen companies try to do this. They try to say, well, we can get away with doc management automating our AP process. It just doesn't work. When we talk about automate, because AP is really specific to finance, where doc management takes on the overall enterprise as a service. So there's really some differences, some really key differences when we talk about workflow, integration with the accounting system, the end of the magic rainbow from payments. Those are things that doc management does not do. It doesn't do it well and doesn't do it at all. So, but a very good question. Some people say, hey, can't I do this with a doc management? You can to a certain degree, but you're gonna hit a wall very soon.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mike. And we have one more question. And the question is, with AvidXchange's solution, is it limited to the number of users?
No, the advantage of what the technology we built here, there's no limit on users. It's a software as a service, so it's a transaction model. So you're only charged for what you process through your portal, whether it's invoices or payments. You're not charged by the user. There's no seat or site licensing that you have to worry about. You're really leveraging our software. That's what SaaS means. But the end of that is the services that we provide to make sure that you're successful. So there aren't any limitations. You're not charged for users, no limitation on users. We have clients that have hundreds and hundreds of users. Typically AP, again, like doc management is global. AP is specific to those folks in the organization that are approving and coding invoices, and those aren't typically a lot, but there's no limitation on users. So that's a very good question. Thank you for asking.
Great. Thanks, Mike. So that's all the time that we have today. Again, I would just like to thank everyone for attending our webinar today and thank Oasis for letting us host. Mike, before we close out, is there anything that you would like to add?
No, there's a couple quick comments. One is I appreciate the time, as always, to speak to Oasis clients. We've had a long-term relationship with them. We appreciate them sharing the word and spreading the word about AP automation via AvidXchange. One last tip. I'm just going to say that it's no longer whether or not you're going to automate. If you haven't, there's over hundreds and hundreds of thousands of companies that haven't. It's no longer if you're going to automate, it's just going to be when. So there will come a day where you'll look in the mirror and say, hey, we're growing. We need to leverage technology to not hire more people. We've lost some key people to retirement, so it's a good time. We've got a new boss. A lot of times the new boss comes in and says, what? We're going to automate it. So if I leave you one tip, it's no longer if you're going to automate, it's just when. So start your research early on in the process so you're ready to go when that event happens. So thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your summer, and we appreciate it.
Great. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, everybody.